Happy Saturday afternoon. It is a beautiful, gorgeous summer day for a wingy. How you guys doing? We got a big one today, another busy podcast because due to WWE's overseas tour and AEW being over there as well, up until last week, we had some weird timed Raws and Smackdowns this week, so I was not here this past Monday to review Raw. So we have a lot of wrestling to catch up on in terms of Raw, Dynamite, Smackdown. Again, one of the new things we're doing here on this podcast is not focusing in on these long weekly reviews, reviewing every single aspect of the show. Only going to be talking about the highlights there, but we do have a lot to talk about as it relates to Raw, Smackdown, and of course, Wednesday's Dynamite. Tomorrow is Clash in Paris, and we will be here to predict that entire ordeal as well later on in the show. But we're also going to be very news heavy today because I have not yet really spoken about the Raja Jackson Psycho Stu incident. So we're going to get into all that today as well. We're going to talk about Vince McMahon's 80th birthday party. We're going to talk about some of the things Jake Hager has been saying about AEW lately. Also, we're going to talk about the possibility of AEW pay-per-views making it over to Max a little bit early, and that might even start with All Out. We also have some news and notes on Cody and Brandy, on Mark Briscoe. What else do I have in my notes here? Let's see. What else are we going to be getting into today? We're going to talk about the All Out card. We got some news on Taz. I'm going to talk a lot about the ECW arena and the residency that AEW is running there. Also, Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor was last night. Collision is live later tonight. And of course, we got Clash in Paris tomorrow morning, which is just a whirlwind of wrestling to get into today, and we're going to be back at it again tomorrow with a lot of stuff going on. So stay tuned in a minute, and I'll tell you all about that. But first, welcome to the Wingy. This could be, I'm pretty sure it is going to be, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm like 90% sure. This will be the last Saturday afternoon podcast in this room. Now, we're still going to be doing Saturday podcasts, but like I said, starting next week, we're going to be moving to a later time on Saturday and be giving these shows a lot more time to get done. It's going to be much more interactive in the chat, let you guys pick the topics and stories and things like that. And we're going to make this a fun Saturday tradition every evening starting 1 week from tonight. We will be here for Saturday night's Greg event. The only thing I have to figure out is that I'm guessing that most of these going forward, unfortunately, are going to have to go head-to-head with Collision because I don't want to wait until after Collision and start at 10 p.m. Eastern. It would only be 7 for me, but starting at 10 p.m. Eastern could keep people up late. It's Saturday night. People can stay up late on Saturday nights, but still, I don't know if I want to keep you guys up till 1 o'clock in the morning if you are on the East Coast or whatever. So we might go live during Collision. We'll start doing the podcast. We'll all be chatting, having a good time. I will have Collision on the TV. We will monitor it as we go through the podcast, and we're probably going to be doing it a little bit like that. So stay tuned. 1 week from tonight, which just so happens to be my 48th birthday, we will be here next Saturday night for a Saturday night's Greg event, and the Saturday podcasts will be later on in the evening going forward starting next Saturday. Now, one thing I did mention to you guys is that not every single podcast is going to be in the evening. There will be some weeks that I'm going to have to be at work or whatnot, so we're going to have the wingies still happen during the day. But I don't think we're going to have any more daytime Saturday podcasts probably until we get into October perhaps, and maybe even later than that. So that's just a little programming note that this is the final kind of wingy, at least for a little while, as we're going to change up the format here and make these podcasts a little longer and a little bit more fun every single Saturday starting next week. What's going on tomorrow? Glad you asked. So, of course, we've got Clash in Paris that we're going to be predicting later on, the pay-per-view. I don't even know what time it airs for us here on the West Coast. I think it's 11 a.m. It's going to start. So we're not going to bother with a watch-along, kind of like last week with Forbidden Door. A little bit too early here on the West Coast to do a watch-along for, so I'm going to wait until the show is over, give it another hour or two, have some lunch, and then we're going to come up here and do a Clash in Paris review tomorrow at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. That's when we're going to be up here to do a Clash in Paris review. And then just like last week, since we did a Forbidden Door review at the same time, I didn't want to cancel our Sunday watch-along. So we did a shorter show last week. We watched the Clash of Champions where Shockmaster debuted. Well, tomorrow night after our Clash in Paris review, we're going to watch WWE In Your House Mind Games. We have not gotten to this one yet. I've spoken about this show before. I thought we had watched it, but when I looked it up, it didn't look like we've ever gotten to this one. So tomorrow night, about an hour after the Clash review, we'll regroup. We'll come back and watch Mind Games. Only a 2-hour show here. That way, we're not going until all hours of the night watching wrestling. But that is what is on tap for tomorrow. So just put that in your pocket and save it, because tomorrow should be pretty fun. And even though the Clash in Paris card, I guess on paper, isn't the sexiest looking card we've ever seen, only 6 matches, I still have a feeling that despite WWE's really same shit, different day vibes they've been giving off on TV lately, I still think the pay-per-view is going to deliver. I think even with a weak card, or a weaker card, as some fans are calling it, I just think that combined with that crowd who was on fire last night in Lyon, just were awesome despite the maybe lackluster show, although Sammy winning was pretty good. That crowd is going to bring it, and if the matches are solid, I think tomorrow could potentially be a home run in Paris for WWE, despite things not looking so great on paper. So we will be here tomorrow afternoon to review all of Clash in Paris. Stick around. At the end of this video, we're going to predict all 6 matches of Clash in Paris as well, and like I said, tomorrow afternoon as well, we'll be back for a Mind Games review. Mind Games watch along. In terms of Monday, we got another one of those daytime Raws. So there could be some things happening since it's following up a pay-per-view. So just like last week, I'm going to monitor the show. If things are worth talking about, we'll be up here Monday afternoon sometime to do a Raw review. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of keep my eye on the show, and we'll be up here talking about it later on in the week or whatnot. So anyway, that's kind of what's on tap for the next couple of days here on the channel. And today's podcast, like I said, will be a big one. I'm going to go say hello to everybody here in the chat real quick. While I'm doing that, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button if you don't mind. Make sure you are subscribed. Super chats are open. I'll be getting to all of those today as you're sending them in, and we will get going here on the news, and I think you can tell by what image is on the screen what we're going to be starting with today, because I really wanted to start with some pleasant news before we got into some of the unpleasant things that we're going to talk about this afternoon. Let me do a quick sound check. I can be heard, right? All right, we're looking good there. Am I centered? Am I straight? I look okay, right? No boogers in my nose. All right, we're good. We're good. Tito, you can see his feet hiding behind Cody's head, but it's all you're getting of Tito right now. But he's here. He says hello, and he hopes everybody is having a great weekend. Anyway, let's say hello. VHS Nostalgia is here. Did Triple H choose France because of France's WCW hometown? No, I don't think that has anything to do with it at all. VHS. Good to see Tatanani. Jay Lambo is here. Melissa, William Cullen, Gilbert R. Ballo, and Colin Wright in the house. Thanks for the $5, my friend. Waiting for Rikishi to get his finger out of his ass and release a statement. I have lost respect for him, if that is not too harsh. We're going to talk about Rikishi. Rikishi, he's not usually at a loss for words. But, if he wasn't there, he might just be trying to stay away from it to try to keep his relationship with WWE intact. I don't know what's going on there. But, yeah, Rikishi did co-found Knox Pro Wrestling, which is where that incident took place. And Colin, we'll be getting into that in just a second. Ricky, Salvador, Rodrigo, good to see you. Ben Espinoza, we got David Brown, and my Hawaiian friend Barry is in the house. There's something really funny about WWE posting pictures of Cena and the kid looking at the kid's phone. We're going to talk about that too. That little kid that John Cena broke the heart of back when he first turned heel earlier this year was in the crowd last night for SmackDown, and John Cena went over and apologized to him, but the kid couldn't care less. He was too busy looking at his phone. Our entire world is collapsing. Yeah, our society is just fucking doomed. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. Damian Drain, good to see you. Jacob A is in the house. Nick Steele is here. We got Michael Cuomo, William Cullen. Appreciate the $2, my friend. You're awesome. Mike Rouse, always good to see you. We got Tatanani and Serge and Daniel Barry Sports and Stephen Harris and Brian Powers. We got Isaac. We've got Michael Games. And now I've lost my place, so I'll come back and do more shout-outs later. But anyway, good to see you guys here. Thank you, as always, for being here with us every single Saturday. And we're going to talk about it more probably tomorrow and this week, exactly what time we're going to be going live next week. And I really think it's going to be like the same time as Collision. I'm really sorry about that. If any Collision watchers out there find that inconvenient, I'm really sorry. What I'm really hoping for is that AEW winds up moving Collision to another night at some point and gives us our Saturdays free. I feel like that is a possibility for the future. So for a little while, every time we do a Saturday podcast, we're probably going to have to be head-to-head with Collision. I hope that's okay with you. I promise I will have it on the tube, hanging on the wall there. We will keep an eye on it, and we will monitor the show during these podcasts. But I think that's what we're going to do. We're probably going to come up 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, and probably have no less than a 3-hour show every week here on the channel. That only when I'm home on Saturday nights, which I should be for at least the remainder of the fall season, winter season, and maybe even beyond. I have worked it out with work to have actual weekends off. That's kind of nice, Saturday and Sunday. My dues are paid in full, so they kind of give me what I want over there, and it's kind of nice. So that's going to be the plan moving forward for Saturday nights. Just keep that in mind. Can't wait to get that cracking next week, because I really don't like doing these long podcasts and then going to work. And tonight I'm going to get my ass rammed, but in a good way, if that's possible. But I'm really excited to be able to do a podcast and then not immediately have to go to work and get my ass rammed. You know what I mean? So that'll be on my menu tonight. I'm so excited. Anyway, let's start getting into today's wrestling news. And I think we need to start with some just pleasant news. Very simple news here. Nice, simple, happy. Can't do anything but bring a smile to your face. We want to congratulate current WWE Undisputed Champion Cody Rhodes and his lovely wife, Brandi. They have welcomed their second child, Leilani Ella Runnels, to the family. So I guess that answers our question where Cody has been, because Cody took that Claymore through the table from McIntyre. We thought they might be setting up a Clash in Paris match between the two, but Cody has been off of TV and off of all of this European run. And I did find that surprising that he would be off this much just for selling a Claymore through the table. But turns out they ran that angle so he could have some time off to be with Brandi. And he probably doesn't want to be over in Europe if she's, at home with the baby. And I know there might have been a surrogate issue or something there, but that's their business, not ours. But either way, Cody, I'm sure, would want to be in the area when the baby is coming. So congratulations to the two of them. Cody is now a 2-time papa, and I'm very happy for him. Guess who's a 9-time papa? Did I hear that right? Mark Briscoe, who showed his little baby, who I think fell out of the vagina the day before. I mean, this thing was fresh baby he had in his hand. And he's showing it on Dynamite, and that's why he couldn't be at the 2300 arena. And somebody mentioned that that's his 9th kid, as in Nueve? Holy shit, bro. So I guess he's got his 9th kid. He's got a whole fucking litter in the Sussex chicken household. So very, very happy for Mark Briscoe. And I don't know if he meant to do this or not, but on Dynamite he said something like he goes, the baby, here, take this and go. And I swear he was tributing Randy Savage's WrestleMania 8 promo. After he beat Flair for the title, and he's backstage with Gene and Elizabeth, and he's got the title, and he's so fucking pissed off. It's one of my favorite might be my favorite Randy Savage promo ever. You feared for Ric Flair's life with his eyes and how intense he was and how fucking pissed off he was that Ric Flair sexually assaulted his wife on worldwide pay-per-view. Never seen a man so mad. And then when he finally was getting into it, he takes the title and he gives it to Elizabeth. Here, this is yours. Take it and go. And this is yours, and just went right into it. So I don't know if Briscoe meant to do that, but it reminded me of Randy Savage's WrestleMania 8 promo. Congrats to Mark Briscoe and his family, and congrats to Cody and Brandi as well on the new children in the house. Very excited for all of them. So that's the happy news, right? That's the happy news. We've got sad news to discuss. Not sad, frustrating, angering, absolutely impossible to believe unless you saw it with your own eyes. And that is what happened 1 week ago tonight, just a few hours after last week's Wingy. I go to work, and as I'm wrapping up business there, because this all did happen on the West Coast around 10 or 11 o'clock, whatever it was at night, I see what took place, I believe up in L.A., right? Knox Pro Wrestling. A wrestling promotion, independent wrestling promotion, co-founded by Rikishi. And Raja Jackson, the son of Rampage Jackson, who is also a trained MMA fighter, and he is a frequent streamer. He streams a lot on Kick. He was invited to the Knox Pro Wrestling show last Saturday night by a wrestler by the name of AJ Mana. And look at the way this dude dresses. So this AJ Mana fuck invites Raja to the show. And this all is a week old now. So all of you know what happened. You can see the disturbing image right here. Everybody has seen what happened before, and has seen what happened after. And by now, since it's been a week, a lot of you have heard lots of different opinions from all your favorite podcasters, YouTubers, and even wrestlers. So for me to rehash every single little detail here would kind of be pointless, but you guys all know what happened in the ring between Raja Jackson and Psycho Stu, where Raja Jackson pummeled Stu in the face with 22 stiff, real MMA punches to the point where it was attempted murder. It is the worst, most vile, and brutal thing I have ever seen in a wrestling ring in my life, and I lived through mass transit. And if any of you don't remember or know what the mass transit incident is, look it up. This was worse. This was way worse. This was a premeditated, vicious attack that could be, depending on what the LAPD here uncovers in their investigation, could result in an attempted murder charge if things get as extreme as they could get here. And it was an absolutely brutal attack where the minute that Psycho Stu hit the mat, he was unconscious. And then Raja Jackson proceeded to hit him with 22 unprotected punches to the face. And it took forever for someone to run in there and finally subdue Raja Jackson. I believe it was a wrestler by the name of Doug Mallow who finally was able to jump on him and get him off of Stu and could potentially have saved Psycho Stu's life. Now, what led this on? Of course, we all know that that AJ Mana fella, he was the one that invited Raja Jackson to the show. Now, because of the constant 24/7 streaming that this guy always does, everything that led up to this and that followed this was on camera. And what happened before is that everybody is kind of hanging outside the building before the show during the day. And Psycho Stu, I guess, picks up a beer can or whatnot and just smashes it on Raja's head. And Raja's like, what the fuck? Kind of gets in his face a little bit. And you can hear people in the background going, no, dude, he's not a worker. He's not a worker. And there was a little bit of tension there. And Raja was pretty pissed for a little while. But he wound up coming around. Psycho Stu and Raja Jackson shook hands. Stu apologized. Hey, man, I didn't know. That's my bad. Raja accepted his apology, and it seemed like it was all good. Now, if anything would have happened there in the moment, like when Psycho Stu would have hit him over the head with a beer can, and then Raja Jackson, because he's not a worker and he doesn't know who Psycho Stu is, and this random stranger comes up to him and smashes a beer can over his head, he might have just pulled back and knocked him out. One punch knocked him right on his ass. I don't even think this would be an issue if that happened, because if you heard that story, a lot of people would be like, shit, I don't blame him. Some stranger comes up to you and bashes you in the head with a beer can? I'd knock him out too. So if that would have been the case, then there's really no story here. But they apologized. It was smoothed over, or so they thought. Then fast forward to a little while later when the show starts, they've decided to now turn this bullshit into an angle. And you've got AJ Mana back there. This whole thing is on camera. You guys have all seen it. And he's back there egging on Raja Jackson. You got to go in there and tag his shit. You got to go in there and give him a receipt. You remember what a receipt is, right? Now, of course, this AJ Mana fucker has been let go from his job, apparently. He's trying to pretend that he was in character during all this. The fuck you were. The fuck you were. How stupid do you think people are, AJ? So AJ eggs on Raja and encourages him to go in there and assault Psycho Stu and give him a receipt. And then trying to explain to a non-wrestler what a receipt is. This is so low time. This is so Bush League. This looks so fucking low rent, so amateur, so pathetic. This guy, AJ Raw, what the fuck has he ever done? Telling somebody to go in there and give him a receipt. That's completely irresponsible. You're putting somebody else's life in danger by a lunatic who clearly has some mental deficiency or mental problems, also some serious, serious daddy issues. And you unleashed this fucking monster on another man who wasn't expecting to be hospitalized over this attack. So, of course, you're now in the match. And during the show and during the match, you've got Rajah Jackson in the crowd there all throughout the show. Even this is after the apology has been issued and accepted. He's in the crowd, and of course, he streams everything. All these kids today fucking stream everything. Rajah Jackson and his dad, Rampage Jackson, were both simultaneously streaming on their own individual platforms or whatever while all this stuff was going down. And so during the show, in the crowd, Rajah Jackson is staring at his phone, and he's reading the comments on his Twitch or his Kick stream or whatever fucking stream he's on, telling people that he shouldn't have let that go. You need to stand up for yourself, just riling him up. So even though it was squashed before the show, they shook hands and killed the beef, he got all riled up again by his audience. And apparently by something that his father said as well. So he now has had a complete change of heart. He's now furious, fuming, mad. He's let his phone anger him. He was fine, but now his phone has pissed him off. That's the problem with social media and stuff. People can have their days completely ruined by what they read on fucking Twitter. Couldn't imagine living my life that way. So he's all mad. He then slides in the ring to do the run-in, grabs a hold of Psycho Stu, basically kind of like in a spine buster type position, slams him down on the mat, and he hit the mat so hard, I'm convinced he was unconscious right there. And then, as you see, Rajah mounts the unconscious Psycho Stu. Look at how far back, he was winding, and he was punching the skull, the jaw, the teeth, the nose, the eyes of Psycho Stu like a goddamn fucking madman. This is not a receipt. This is premeditated assault and battery with possibly the intent to kill. Because if you're an MMA fighter and you hit somebody who's not even protecting themselves 22 times in the head with punches as hard as you can throw, that is attempted murder. It should be the easiest case for the LAPD or any fucking jury to see, especially since you have so much evidence and film of before the incident and after the incident. You can see the premeditation on film. It's right there with him looking at his phone and getting all riled up. And he's stewing. And he's mad because of what he's reading on there. He's obviously got a problem with he's not secure in his masculinity at all. You'd think if you're a fighter who could kick somebody's ass, you would be pretty secure in your manhood. But he's not. The more obsessed you are with masculinity, you see that from a lot of those MAGA fucks. The more obsessed you are with masculinity, the further in the closet you are. And I've always been a believer of that. And this is a guy that shouldn't ever have to worry about his manhood being questioned, but he's so fucking insecure that he feels like he has to go in there and make an example out of this guy or damn near kill him just so strangers in a stream chat don't question his manhood, or if they call him a bitch or whatever it is. Does he look like a bitch to you? Not to me. He looks like a tough motherfucker. I don't know why anybody's calling him a bitch at all. And if they were, who are they to call you a bitch? Just the fact that young folks let that shit bother them. And he unleashed it on Psycho Stu in a brutal attack. None of Knox Pro Wrestling looked good here because it took, 12 or 13 punches until finally somebody ran in to try to get in the way. And then I believe it was that Doug Malo guy who got a dark match in WWE many years ago. He was the one that actually ran in and was able to stop the brutality, because if nobody would have ran in there, he could have died. And I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, did they count the fucking 3 count too when that was done? Didn't the wrestler get on top of him so they could count the 3? Still going through with a match in an independent promotion of this size? Even in WWE, even if this is WrestleMania, you'd have officials in there, stopping this thing immediately. You wouldn't, we just watched SummerSlam 97 and how last week and how, or the week before, and how disturbing it was to watch Austin get pile drived and then them still feel the need to go through the finish. That was 30 years ago. Things have changed. And, the fact that this was even allowed to happen and then everybody stood there with their thumbs up their asses while this guy is punching Psycho Stu to death is just insane. It's taken me a week to kind of really process this. I did mention it last Monday night or something. I think, or when did I mention it? I guess I mentioned it. Oh, in the Forbidden Door review. That's what it was. So we did mention this last Sunday in the Forbidden Door review, but that was before I kind of saw all the aftermath, all the before stuff. I just kind of saw the beating, and I was pretty pissed off about it. But when you see the before and after, it pisses you off more because it was even more unnecessary than you thought. Because all I saw last week was the brutality. All I saw was Rajah Jackson mounting this guy and beating the fuck out of him. I had no idea why he was doing this. So for all I knew, maybe there was a reason for it, but it's unjustifiable. There's nothing that you could have told me last week before I knew about the situation that would excuse that. And that's the problem here. We've seen, obviously a lot of people have opinions on this and they're offering their takes, but the fact that there's way more debates about this than there should be, because I don't care. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. If you can watch that and justify that, you are a fucked up person. There is no excuse. There is nothing at all that Psycho Stu could have done that would warrant an attack like that. I don't care about the beer can. I don't care about what he did outside or anything like that. The punishment doesn't fit the crime. And apparently the crime was already dealt with because they had apologized and shook hands, or Psycho Stu apologized. They squashed the beef. And then Rajah got himself all riled up on his stream and let his audience rile him up, and he jumped in there and had this attack and unleashed this attack on Psycho Stu. And it wasn't over there. After this whole entire thing happens, they're still streaming. He's still streaming. And he's leaving the arena and somebody's filming him on his stream. And he's ranting and raving about how nobody can call him a bitch again. Can nobody call me a bitch again? And apparently it had something to do with his dad, who earlier on in the night had said something to that effect. So it was almost as if he was trying to prove something to not only his streaming audience, but his father. And Rampage and Knox Pro Wrestling both issued statements on this, not condoning his actions, but, Rampage claimed that Rajah suffered a concussion in a sparring session a few days earlier, but none of that excuses anything. This guy is clearly unbalanced and fucking disturbed. And the fact that he would be so out of control, completely unable to control himself and his actions, it has nothing to do with anything but him. It doesn't matter what Psycho Stu did to him, whether he smashed him on the head with a beer can or not. If he smashed him on the head with a beer can and Rajah knocked him out with one punch, I don't even have an issue with this. But it's how it all happened. It's how it was clearly premeditated. You could see it unfold in real time, see him get madder and madder and madder. And then when he hit the ring, he had no brakes, all gas, no brakes, right? He saw nothing but probably red, could not be controlled. Fucking animal. Absolute monster. Completely insane to do this to another person. And it was one of the hardest things to ever watch. Now, Psycho Stu, of course, was rushed to the hospital. There was a lot of fear that he could die. Luckily, he's not going to die. He's going to be all right. It was reported later on that night or early the next morning that he was in stable condition, but he did lose a shitload of teeth. I'm sure he's got a broken jaw or broken nose or whatever. But he was awake and alert and apparently remembers nothing of what happened. But there was a photo that did surface of probably maybe his wife, maybe a brother or something, and some wrestlers there from his hospital bed. So he looks to be awake and alert, and his eyes are clear, and all of that is wonderful. As of today, I checked his GoFundMe page, and he has raised $211,000, almost $212,000, probably is over that now, on his GoFundMe. And there's been a lot of big donations dropped in there. Mr. Beast dropped something big in there. Chris Jericho put a $2,500 down like he always does. And there was another big one I saw today in the neighborhood of $15,000. And we, last Sunday or Monday, whatever day the GoFundMe was started, we made an anonymous donation here that's basically from all of us, but I didn't bother putting our names on there or anything like that. But anything that I give to a GoFundMe or a charity, I don't think of it from me. I think of it from us, because it's you guys that help kind of support this, and I'm basically using channel money to do it. So thank you to everyone who always chips in and gives super chats and makes donations and supports the channel here, because we do use a lot of those funds to support anybody that we can. So I'm happy to hear that Psycho Stu is going to be all right. I didn't know anything about Psycho Stu. I've never heard about him. Apparently, he's an ex-Army veteran. And it's just a shame that that happened. It just came off as Bush League and unfortunate, and I'm glad that that we didn't have any sort of like loss of life here. This would be one black eye that pro wrestling would absolutely not need, because this made national headlines. That's how Mr. Beast knew about it. You know, this made national headlines. And WWE, they have dropped, and rightfully so, they have dropped Knox Pro Wrestling as one of their WWE ID promotions, so they stripped them of that. And I think there should be some more vetting when it comes to that anyway. But I guess if they thought Rikishi was connected to it, then everything is okay. Rikishi has yet to make any statement about this, which is odd because he's usually, isn't short for words. But Rikishi hasn't really said anything. I'm sure, if he wasn't there, if he wasn't there, I don't know what he can really do about it. But I think he should at least issue a statement condoning the actions and vow to never let anything like that happen again, and vow to never allow Raja Jackson into the company ever again, and whatnot. Now, the LAPD is investigating this because of the obvious brutality of it. There hasn't been an arrest yet, and I don't really understand why. I don't really know what there is to consider here. I mean, every single thing is on video. The attack is on video and the premeditation. So maybe it's a matter of, what he's going to be charged with in the state of California, how you define attempted murder versus simple assault and battery, plus the premeditation stuff, but when you look at this, you're like, how the fuck is this guy at least not arrested and let out on bail or whatever to come back and face these charges another day? Maybe it's they don't know exactly what they're going to charge him with yet. But if he gets no charges here, that's going to be really, really, really surprising. And it doesn't matter I don't think it matters if Stu wants to press charges or not. He committed a crime on camera, a very brutal one. And that excuse that you're in a wrestling show can only go so far. You know how that AJ Mana was trying to be like, I was in character? The fuck you were. Are you kidding me? Do you think everybody is as stupid as you? Is that what you think? Like, Jesus Christ. So that only goes so far with that stuff, And you can't just claim that, I thought it was part of the show, it was a misunderstanding. No, this was way, way, way beyond that. And I don't have too much to say about anybody who's defending these actions. I'm kind of disappointed in you if you did. It's just pretty cut and dry to me. We've had Mark Henry and RVD who have both come out kind of defending the situation a little bit. I'm like, are you guys, I was going to say, are you guys high? Or RVD, we know you are. Mark, what's your excuse? And I was really disappointed in Mark, too. He brought up the race thing. And I know there's racist motherfuckers all over this world. We see them all over that hell app, Twitter and whatnot. But race is the last thing in the world that should be on any of our minds when it comes to a situation like this. This was one man brutally attacking another man. And Psycho Stu, I don't know anything about him. But I would venture a guess that I'm not guaranteeing this, but I would say there's a pretty good chance that Psycho Stu and I don't align politically. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if he follows Marjorie Taylor Greene. He does, by the way. I don't care. So we're on the opposite sides of the political fence. That doesn't change the fact that he is the victim in this. Should have nothing to do at all with black or white or any of that stuff. It should have to do with right and wrong, and I may not be able to ever sit down and have a political discussion with Psycho Stu without walking away and punching my own self in the fucking head, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is a guy that was brutally attacked. This is a veteran. That wrestles to help deal with PTSD and stuff. And so it has nothing to do with that. So I don't know where Mark Henry is getting that from. To be honest, that's the last thing on my mind with this situation. Were we talking about race and mass transit? No, it was a fucked up situation. Race had nothing to do with it at all. And I'm disappointed in Mark for bringing that up or feeling the need to bring that up, because that should be the last thing on anybody's mind for a situation like this, where it's just you're just trying to look at the situation honestly. This is a brutal attack on somebody who did not see it coming and got hit in the face with real-life MMA live rounds 22 times in the face when he was unconscious. There is no two sides of this coin. There is one fucking side, and that is Rajah Jackson deserves to be locked up for this. And there is no other way to look at it. You know, I know everybody has debates and, you know, you just can't be mad at somebody for having a different opinion. This is not just a difference of opinion with the Mark Henrys and the RVDs and anybody else who tries to justify or excuse that. There is no excuse. And the fact that you think there is makes me wonder what kind of a human being you are, because there is no excuse for that. And it's disturbing. And as a wrestling fan of, 42 years, I'm ashamed. And I've been ashamed a lot of times. We've seen some fucked up, embarrassing things happen in pro wrestling and definitely on the indies a time or two, more than a time or two. But this is up there with the absolute worst thing I've ever seen. And it's horrible. It's horrible. Luckily, Psycho Stu's going to be all right, and he might get $250,000 out of the deal because he already raised $212,000 on his GoFundMe. This is going to more than make up for any loss of work or any loss of funds. This is life-changing money that he has now received. So there is a silver lining here. Hopefully there's no long-term damage, no brain damage, anything like that with him. And if he does make a full recovery, then he took an ass whipping for $250,000. Maybe he can just try to look at it that way. Look at the bright side. From there, if he wants to press charges or sue or anything like that, there could be more civil suits or penalties or something like that down the road. And hopefully there are some criminal charges for Rajah Jackson, because there should be. Somebody like that needs to be held accountable. He needs some serious therapy. He's got anger management issues and control issues and emotional issues and daddy issues into one big tornado of hell. This guy needs help. Get him the fucking help he needs. Lock him up, give him some court-ordered therapy and psychiatric help, and try to deprogram from the rabid fucking nutcase that he is. That would be my suggestion. So all the best to Psycho Stu and his family. Absolutely horrifying situation to witness. And sorry it took me a whole week to come up here and actually talk about that situation. But yeah, rough stuff. My God. Oh, here's some more pleasantries. How about Vince McMahon turning 80 years old and throwing a big-ass party for himself somewhere, I guess, in New York City. And the party was attended by a lot of WWE wrestlers and WWE staff. Apparently, Vince McMahon had a fucking statue of his head visible there or something. Fucking nuts. So anyway, the reason we know about this is because Jerry Lawler posted a photo a couple days ago, the day of the party, of himself, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Titus O'Neil, The Miz, and Maurice all wearing tuxedos. And this was apparently Vince McMahon's birthday party. Now, Fightful Select had an update about the party and who was there and what was going on with this. And I want to read you this little story from them the other day regarding Vince's 80th birthday party. A number of WWE stars were in attendance. Among them included Undertaker, John Cena, JBL, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, The Miz, Maurice, as well as WWE alumni Titus O'Neil. Longtime friend of Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, was also seen with Vince McMahon last week as they were meeting ahead of Vince McMahon's 80th birthday. It should be noted that nobody we spoke to was willing to speak on the record, only on background. But we did speak to a number of people who attended, were invited, or heard about the process. WWE talent that we spoke to weren't surprised that there were so many present WWE talent here. One who spent a lot of time working with McMahon told Fightful, a lot of people here still feel like they owe Vince everything, even though he made his money back on them tenfold. Another talent who didn't attend said that there are, in fact, a number of talent who want to see the court situation involving Janelle Grant play out before deciding to sever ties, as that's what they'd want if the shoe was on the other foot. I suppose you can understand that. Even though, goes on to say the party itself was intended to be kept very private, with nobody speaking about the event whatsoever until the photos emerged, to the point to the point nobody would have known about it had they not leaked. Attendees were encouraged to be photographed by a professional photographer who was on scene if they wanted photos at the event. And that's when Lawler posted the photo of himself, Miz, Maurice, Drew, Sheamus, and Titus. He was asked by a number of people to delete it afterwards, which he did. One person in contact with Lawler said that Lawler is ride or die for Vince McMahon, and that wouldn't change. Yeah, I don't doubt it. Because Vince McMahon brought Lawler back during his own disgusting little sexual escapades and his statutory rape of a minor or whatever that disgusting charge was that made him leave TV in 1993. You know, Vince brought him back, so perv recognizes perv, you know. Another person in attendance claimed that they were there briefly, and they, along with others, had to catch flights to Europe for WWE's tour. We spoke with a number of people who both went and didn't go if there was any moral conflict with doing so. Even one that went said that there was, but didn't elaborate on what went into the decision to attend. Of those who didn't attend that we spoke to, the consensus was that if they were accused of doing the things Vince McMahon was, he would have fired them and never spoken to them again. And that's probably true. A person in attendance who said it was the first time they'd seen him in years said that McMahon looked 80 before elaborating that McMahon seemed more frail, walked slower, and looked his age in a manner that he hadn't in decades before leaving WWE. And that's the thing about Vince. We've always talked about the shape that he's in, but I've maintained for years that Father Time catches up to everyone. It doesn't matter. You know, there's actually fans out there that believe Vince McMahon will never die. He will never die. He'll control WWE to 120 until he's 120 years old. Okay, you're just being stupid. You know, because you can just see he's just all mumbles and he's just old as fuck. You know, we thought the fat ass in chief was fucking dead for 12 hours yesterday because we hadn't seen his dumb ass waddling around anywhere, you know, until he crawled out of his fucking sewer today. But Vince, it's the same way. Like, he's just old. You know, Vince is just old and he's frail and he's just a mess. And, you know, it blows my mind how so many people are still, you know, so indebted to him, you know, where granted he did give a lot of people opportunities and a lot of people are rich and famous because of him. I get that. But the fact that there's no line drawn, you know, for these people, or they're just too busy with their WWE careers, they don't see what's going on out there. We want to wait and see what happens with the Janelle Grant case. I'm like, Reed, your guys work with him. We don't even work with him, and we can find this very easy to believe. You work with him. You know Vince personally. Now take what you know. Sheamus, Drew, especially you, Titus O'Neil. That fucking madman suspended him. Remember when he like grabbed Vince's arm during some sort of fucking celebration and Vince got pissed and suspended him for 60 days? Then fans freaked out and they like lowered the suspension. Even Titus was there. So Titus, take everything you know about this psychotic fucking lunatic that you used to work for and then read the 60-something page Janelle Grant lawsuit and you ask yourself if that adds up. Do you think that holds water based on what you know about Vince McMahon? The answer is going to be yes, it does. All of you motherfuckers know this man. Who he is, how he acts. You know absolutely that this is very much the way Vince McMahon operates. So that tells me that you don't care. You don't care. You don't care. Bruce doesn't care. Triple H doesn't care. Nobody cares. They don't do scrums anymore because they don't want to be asked about this shit. They brought Brock Lesnar back. You know, this woman who was suing the WWE and Vince McMahon for sex abuse and sex trafficking was used as a negotiating tool to get Brock Lesnar to re-sign. The same guy that's going to have a match with John Cena going head-to-head with All Out in a few weeks. And I don't understand why anybody would feel the need. I see so many parallels between Vince and Kenkel McTaco Tits, who runs this country. I see so many similarities because why are people afraid of them? Why are people like, why would you go to this event if you didn't think it might like help your career or whatever? Like, why would you potentially face backlash like that just to support a guy that's going to be dead soon, that's can't threaten you or harm you in any way? Maybe they're actually worried that Vince can still talk to Triple H. Don't push so-and-so. He was a jerk to me, or he said something bad in an interview or whatever. Like, are they really that afraid? And I can't understand why nobody stands up to what's his fucking. Like, he's such a weak, pathetic man. Why are people afraid of him? A stiff breeze will knock him over. A well-placed punch will kill him. Why are we afraid of him? It's so crazy to me. And there are still people in WWE, like if Vince came out to No Chance in Hell on SmackDown, the whole fucking crowd would be going like this. What the fuck is the matter with people? So anyway, the people who attended, they have every right to attend. I don't give a shit. We know that people like Undertaker, who has daughters, by the way, who is very concerned about his daughters potentially maybe having to compete against a trans person. Oh, the horror. But yet he supports a guy who traffics women. How do you think your daughters feel? Show your daughters, Mark Calloway, print up, go to your office in your Texas Hillbilly Ranch or whatever, print up the 60-some pages of that lawsuit, drop it by your daughter's bedroom door, and say, hey, honey, read this when you have a chance. I'd like to get your thoughts on it. And then report back to me. Let's move on to some more assholes. Jacob Hager. Jack Swagger. He's butthurt about leaving AEW. He's had all sorts of things to say about them, and I find some of this pretty funny. Not infuriating at all, so I'm not going to go nuts here on Jake Hager. Don't worry. Jake Hager, I've never liked him. I always thought he sucked. I don't really care what he says or what he doesn't say. But he did have a couple of interviews this week where he wanted to talk a little bit about his time in AEW, and he clearly has some issues there, and I got a kick out of a lot of what he said. So his first appearance was this week on Chris Van Vliet, and of course Chris has built up enough good faith in the community that he can really interview anybody, and it'd be okay. And he had Jake Hager on. And Hager said a lot of things about his time in AEW and his contract negotiations and whatnot, and a lot to say about Tony Khan, which did prompt a response from FTR, who basically called him out and said, none of the shit you're saying is true. Or most of what you're saying is not true. So here's what Jake Hager had to say on Chris Van Vliet. And I quote, my first contract with AEW was up, and after that, the negotiation process was very one way. I could tell that, I always find a way to say this every day, so I think everyone should too. Fuck Tony Khan. Okay? I could tell that he didn't want me there. He offered me like a year and a half, and I was like, bro, I just did Stadium Stampede twice. Don't act like Stadium Stampede didn't put AEW on the map. I was in the debut episode. I was the big spoiler, and you offered me 18 months after all that. So it was that and the way he started running the business. It really felt like he wasn't professional. After all the CM Punk shit that went down, the boys got together and we had a meeting. Boys only, no office. Sting's in there, Chris Jericho, Brian Mox. They're all standing at the front, kind of talking to us through this shit. And lo and behold, who comes storming into the room? Daddy's little billionaire. Boy, they hate that, don't they? They hate They hate the daddy's money. And he's yelling at us because Dax and Cash Wheeler didn't want to come in. They didn't like the storyline, so they refused to come to TV that day. And he was like, listen, I'll put you in a 6-man minutes before the show, and you're going to do it. And we're all just feeling a little disrespected. I still to this day wish I would have stood up and said a lot of things, but he had just told Sting that he was going to put him in a 6-man 6 minutes before the show, and then he was going to honor him for his retirement. We became his little playthings. We had to wait outside his office. I can think of another promoter that you had to wait outside the office a lot. We just talked about it. Anyway, he goes on to finish up his rant by saying, quote, his storylines were very good at debuting, but he could never carry anything through. There's a little bit of truth to that. I got to the point where I'm carrying on, but I couldn't tell him anything. He couldn't take criticism. He was fucking up. And we were all just trying to have to deal with that. We were all just having to deal with that, excuse me. We all had blood, sweat, and tears put into that company. We were all there at the beginning. We all had our careers behind us that helped build that company, and then we just sit side by side and couldn't do anything because he wanted to run it the way he wanted to run it. Okay, first of all, I think Jake Hager is vastly overestimating his value to that company and in pro wrestling in general. He is absolutely expendable. The business will not be changed in any way with or without his presence. He brings absolutely nothing. And he's retired now. He's got a trucking business. Good for him. Good riddance. FTR publicly disputed the claim by even showing text receipts on social media. And Dax said, look, this is mostly not true. It wasn't me and Cash who didn't come to TV. We've been the most consistent ones there ever since Collision debuted. It wasn't us. And he posted screenshots of text messages that he sent to Jake where Jake apologized. Sorry, I couldn't remember. I shouldn't have mentioned you. And he goes, but you did mention us and you made us look like assholes. And so Hager kind of apologized. I thought it was you. I shouldn't have said something if I wasn't sure. So if he wasn't sure about that, what else wasn't he sure about in this? Dax also debunks the Tony Khan came storming into that meeting. He said Tony wasn't even there. So there's clearly some inconsistencies here, and there's clearly an issue in Jake Hager's mind with Tony Khan. But what's funny about this, I was thinking about this the other day too. You get that contingent of fans that are really, really obsessed, and they're fixated on the daddy's money, the Nepo baby. It's just daddy's money, daddy's little billionaire. And in Jake Hager's complaint here, he's talking about you had to wait outside of his door. Oh, you mean just like Vince? Later on in the week, he did another, he talked more shit on Sportskeeda Unscripted. And where is that clip? Here's what he said near the end of that. He said, they stopped doing production meetings. They stopped doing anything to make the show timely. We would be waiting around until 5 p.m. to find out what we were doing that day. What live television show does that? What live television show does that? Oh, I don't know. All of them? I mean, you're talking about wrestling, I'm assuming. All of them. All of them. WWE is a complete fucking mess behind the scenes. It's gotten better since Vince left. But how many times were we hearing reports of Vince McMahon tearing up scripts an hour before the show, 2 hours before the show, and having everybody rewrite everything? Your plans will be changed on the fly. You get to the building, you find out what you're doing, they change again, they change a third time, change a fourth time. You don't know what the fuck's going on. Vince is a goddamn madman. Everything is disorganized as all fuck. Nobody knows which way is up, and nobody knows what the fuck they're doing, and the show is about to start. That happens in WWE. Back in the day, the same thing happened in WCW. When WCW closed its doors, how many talents went on shoot interviews? Because back then there was no podcast. It was shoot interviews. How many former WCW wrestlers and ones that went to WWE who did interviews and documentaries or shoot interviews or whatever, where they talked about the unbelievable disorganization of WCW to the point where sometimes the show would be starting, Nitro would be on the air, and you still didn't know what you were going to do yet. Let's look at ECW. Paul Heyman is a fucking slime ball. Sleazy as all hell, lies to everyone, doesn't pay people, bounces their checks, and lies and does whatever he can to get his show off, and he deals with the consequences later. So whenever I hear, and let's talk about the daddy's money stuff. Look, idiots, and I'm talking not to you guys, but I'm talking about the daddy's money, people who are so obsessed with that. How the fuck do you think Triple H got there? Triple H is not sitting in that chair without marrying Stephanie. At best, he's a 2-time Hall of Famer and maybe one of WWE's top agents. And back 15 years ago, he probably had a 2-year stint in TNA. That would be the extent of Triple H's career. He would be a Hall of Famer, probably a 2-time Hall of Famer with DX and with himself. But he would not be the 14-time world champion that he was, because he wouldn't have the stroke and the pull that he did if Test would have married Stephanie, or if somebody else would have married her. You know, Triple H would have just been Jeff Jarrett or some other star of that size. That's it. Triple H, Stephanie, and Shane McMahon are all multimillionaires because of the millions of dollars in stocks that they inherited. Stephanie and Shane's kids, all of those grandkids, set for life. Born on third base with no outs. So what the fuck are you talking about here with this daddy's money bullshit? What is so different about Tony Khan's situation and Triple H and Stephanie and Shane? Stephanie and Shane got jobs, so did Triple H, got jobs in the company because of who they were, because of their last name. They were the son and daughter of Vince McMahon. They had to work their way up. They had to get college degrees. just like Tony Khan did. He wasn't given everything. He had to work for it. He's given an advantage because of who his dad is, just like Stephanie was, just like Shane was, just like Triple H was. And don't get me wrong, there is some truth of what Hager is saying here about Tony Khan. We have heard some former talent talk about how he can be a little bit difficult to work with for various reasons. Maybe he's not good at, following through with storylines, or maybe he doesn't want to hear criticism or any of this other shit. Just like every other fucking promoter. Who is a perfect promoter? Name me one in the chat. You can't say Paul Heyman. He was a sleazy fucking liar. You can't say Vince McMahon. He was a fucking madman who tore up scripts. You certainly can't say Eric Bischoff. Because when people say, oh, Tony just wants to be friends with his wrestlers, Bischoff wanted to be friends with his wrestlers. Bischoff cared about being on TV in the NWO and having beers in the trailer with Hall and Nash and Hogan and being one of the boys. He was accused of that. Vince McMahon was accused of being a psycho who didn't know what the fuck he was doing when it came to booking wrestling. Paul Heyman is a liar and a sleazebag. All of these people have egos. Bill Watts didn't want to be told what to do. He was very clear about how he wanted to run things, and fucking wrestlers hated it. Vern Gagne was so behind the times. And so was Vince McMahon at the end. Vince McMahon was out of touch as a human being can possibly be. Vince McMahon has never left the WWE bubble. He has no fucking idea what goes on anywhere outside of that WWE bubble. Tony Khan does. So did Paul Heyman. So does Triple H. Literally everybody's better than Vince in that regard. So these complaints, when you really list your complaints, because you've got a contingent of audience of fans out there who are so obsessed. They care so much about hating Tony Khan, and that's fine. You can do that. And some of the criticisms of Tony Khan are valid. But when you break down, when you look at what you're complaining about here, and then you look at the other promoters throughout history, what's different? Nothing. Tony Khan's just as difficult as Vince was, as Bischoff was, as Heyman was. All difficult in their own different ways, but virtually equally different. When have we ever sat here and talked about a wrestling promoter that was fucking perfect? Oh my God, if this guy could book everything, the wrestling world would, see the most success it ever has. We've never said that about any booker. They don't say that in New Japan either. They hate that motherfucker. So think about the people who have been in charge, people with the pencil. Every single one of them here has heard, or Tony Khan has received, I should say, all of the same criticisms that every single promoter before him has heard. You always hear about people say it's hard to talk to him. He doesn't want to hear criticism. And we've also heard fans say, oh, he's got to put up his big boy pants. The way Hager tells this story, he is putting on his big boy pants. He told his whole fucking locker room, hey, if I book a 6-man in 6 minutes, you're going to go out there and do it. So it sounds like he doesn't have any issues with that. He's probably just trying his best, but fans get really upset at the fact that there is a wrestling fan who has a lot of money who started a wrestling company. That bothers them to such degree. It's just driven by jealousy. It's driven by the realization that your life sucks. I don't know what all that rage and anger, what drives it, but it's clearly something in your own mind that's doing all that, because most of these fans are really, really young. And when I hear like a 21-year-old complain about Tony Khan, I'm like, little boy, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You have no concept or clue at all of any wrestling history or promoters that came before him, or what they were known for, what they did, and how they ran things. You don't know anything. You are just going along with the echo chamber of social media and repeating what you're hearing. You're parroting it. That's all you're doing. Because if you knew what you were talking about, you wouldn't say these things. So I'm not saying these issues with Tony Khan don't exist, because we've seen, I think Cody Rhodes left the company because of a clear conflict with Tony Khan. I believe that. When Cody said he felt disrespected, I feel like he felt disrespected by Tony Khan. That's not abnormal. I wish Tony Khan would maybe have a better relationship or reputation and have done some things a little bit better or differently. Sure. But none of that triggers me into some unhinged rage over the guy. This is the same shit we've been dealing with. Tony Khan is really no different than any promoter that came before him, because I remember all of these complaints. I remember how disgusted we were with the behavior of Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon and Vern Gagne and Bill Watts. You point to the NWA, I'd say they might have had the even though there was a revolving door there of the Sullivans and the Flairs and, and Bookers down there as well during the Jim Crockett promotion days, things were going pretty well. But when you just really look at anybody who has the power to book matches and pick winners and whatnot, we've never found one that we are universally worshiping, is the greatest, because even Vince McMahon, who's going to go down as the most successful promoter of all time, I dare say it's 50-50 from his smart moments and his stupid moments. He's done a lot of stupid fucking things on TV and off TV as it relates to WWE. Vince McMahon has had some stupid decisions. He's made some really stupid decisions. He's come up with stupid gimmicks. He's done idiotic things to try to combat the competition he had back in the day, especially when he's getting his ass kicked. And he's just made some questionable decisions in his life. A lot of them. Just like Bischoff, just like Heyman, just like Tony Khan. So all these sour grapes here from Jake Hager, dude, I'm sure a lot of this is frustrating to some, but he tells on himself. He tells on himself in the interview with the daddy's little billionaire stuff. He's not speaking in good faith here. He's butthurt. That's all it is. And he wants to go rant and rave about Tony Khan. Dude, concentrate on your truck business. You never brought anything to the wrestling world anyway. And you flat out lied in the Sportskeeda interview when he said, I was 17 years nonstop on TV. You were? 17 years nonstop? Well, I guess that's not right. I mean, I don't know what he did in the independent scene before hitting WWE, but didn't he debut in 2010? So 2010 to 2019, when he debuted in AEW, is 9 years. So where's he getting 17 from? Was he wrestling in the independents from 2002 to 2010 and he was getting TV time? What the fuck is he talking about? 17 years on TV. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You're like an amateur wrestler that Jim Ross discovered and brought you in. I don't remember where he started or when, but that 17 years is wrong. There's no way he's been on TV for 17 years. So he's got a lot to say and sounds like he's, wants to spill a lot of tea. And in the Sportskeeda interview, he mentioned, Jericho, saying that Tony Khan takes 2 weeks to return his call. So these are just all just nitpicky type of things. You think Vince McMahon has ever taken 2 weeks to call somebody back? I'm sure. So I don't understand. His complaints are so silly because his complaints are about Tony Khan can apply to every single promoter in fucking history. And about the disorganization in AEW backstage, yeah, I wish that was better too. I wish Tony Khan had a team of writers or people that helped him out and they had a little more continuity and organization in that regard, because we've heard that from other wrestlers. Sure, I wish that was better, but to pretend that that's the only promotion you've ever seen that shit in, give me a break. You worked in WWE during the worst time in the company's history. 2010 to 2016 or however many years he was there was ass. Those were horrible years that he was a part of. And I would imagine that things backstage weren't all smooth and perfect and rainbows and everything. It's ridiculous. So when it comes to stuff like this, every accusation is just a confession on somebody else. There's nothing different going on here in AEW or with Tony Khan that has gone on in any promotion with any promoter. I wish these things would be a little bit better. I wish we'd have a promoter come around that everybody universally likes. But when I see the overwhelming kind of obsessive rage by boys, and again, this is not girls, this is not women, it's boys, it's pent up boys, it's anger boys, those are the ones. It's one fucking demographic here, and it's boys. And for some reason, they are so agitated by the fact that Tony Khan has got a rich dad, but are perfectly fine with Triple H having a rich father-in-law and Stephanie and Shane, all of them having their positions and enjoying their money and enjoying their success, and they're never, them or their children or their grandkids or their grandkids' kids, aren't ever going to have to want for anything because of all the money made by the McMahon family. And yet, Tony Khan upsets you? Get the fuck off this ride now, because you're all crazy. You're all absolutely crazy. And Jake Hager, you're the craziest one of the bunch. So, yeah, Jake Hager's butthurt, and he may go on to even say more things in the next few days. We'll have to see how much more tea that Jake Hager spills. Now let's move on to some more AEW news. This is kind of exciting. And we talked about this when WWE started getting really, really aggressive with their counter programming, and then they announced WrestlePalooza that's going to be running head-to-head with All Out on September 20th. And then this week, and one of the things I said on that podcast last week or the week before, I said one thing Tony Khan needs to really get on in terms of being able to combat these counter-programming measures by WWE is to try to get your pay-per-views on a streaming platform. Because right now, if you're presented with the option of watching for free on Peacock, although it's not going to be Peacock for WrestlePalooza, watching for free on streaming or plopping down $50 for an AEW pay-per-view, and you can only do one, you might choose the free option. Now, if you don't have the ESPN app, you're at least going to have to pay $30 for WrestlePalooza, but that's still less than $50, which is what the pay-per-views cost. Well, there was some rumblings that maybe the pay-per-views are closer to arriving on a streaming platform than we thought, because that was one of the things I said last week. Tony Khan really needs to get on the ball with that and get this done so, that can help him combat this. And here's what Fightful Select had to say about that possibility. Fightful was told at the time of the AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery announcement that the infrastructure on the HBO Max app was nowhere near ready for live pay-per-view or a paywall within a paywall. There were some that were even surprised that it ended up getting announced at that point instead of later. Those we spoke to expect additional platforms to continue to show AEW pay-per-views even after the integration onto Max. This year, AEW added Amazon Prime as a distributor and dropped Triller domestically while retaining them internationally. Over the course of the year, we've heard a few different possibilities regarding the pay-per-views. One idea we heard is that the cost of Max would be discounted from AEW's pay-per-views for each purchase, which would obviously be good news to anyone who's subscribed to the platform already. Another was that a $10 discount would be applied on HBO Max. We've not heard anything resembling pay-per-views being on the service at no additional cost. That would require a reworking of AEW's deal with Warner Brothers Discovery, as that is a significant revenue driver for AEW. There was also discussion that on AEW broadcasts, HBO Max would be the preferred method pushed on shows that air on WBD for obvious reasons. So, sounds like they are getting a little bit closer to getting a streaming deal for their pay-per-views, but it's probably not going to be as sweet as WWE had on Peacock. If they go to Max, sounds like we're going to have to pay for this or get it discounted, one or the other. But sounds like the ball is rolling on that, and that's going to be very, very important, because if WWE is going to continue to offer pay-per-views head-to-head with AEW, they need to get the cost of these a little bit more even so fans have a little bit more even of a choice. But we're going to be loving it that day. We're going to be doing a double watch along. We'll have All Out. That's going to have our main focus, but we will have WrestlePalooza on up over there, and we're going to be watching them both. That's going to be like 3 days before I move, too. So all the shit behind me is probably going to be gone. I'm going to be probably up against a white wall that night or something. We'll figure something out. But yeah, let's hope that actually becomes reality. Let's talk about Dynamite at the ECW Arena this week. So they rented out the old, they're doing a residency at the 2300 Arena, the old ECW Arena from back in the day. This is something that Tony Khan has always wanted to do. It's the first time he's been in that building since 1996, he said, when he was like 13 years old or whatever. So 30 years ago, when Tony Khan was there last as a fan. And that's a small building, man. There was 900 fans in attendance for that. And I don't mind the small buildings, but it is a little weird that they've ran these small buildings right after these highly attended pay-per-views, because didn't they do this right after All In? They did that Chicago residency in that small-ass ballroom, right? Now they're doing the 2300 Arena, which only fit 2,300 fans in there, and looks like it's a lot different. Somebody must have purchased that building and renovated it, because they had it curtained off. So they weren't even utilizing the full capacity, because I always thought the ECW Arena held maybe close to like 2,000 people or something, and there was only 900 fans there. So they had a lot of stuff curtained off, and as small as it was, I still think it looked really good. My problem with it is that it was just bad timing. I think a show like this at the 2300 Arena, I think that should have been saved for an off time of the year, maybe a few weeks in between a couple of not so huge pay-per-views on your calendar, or some sort of time of the year where ratings might be down, you might be up against other sports or whatnot, not right after a big show. And I think if they would have saved this for a different couple of weeks during the year and then built them up as special events, with matches booked specifically for this environment, and give it 3 or 4 weeks of build. You can still make it a Dynamite, but build it up as a big deal, something special for the Philadelphia fans. Have Tony Khan come out at the end and say, like, I know, in his Tony Khan voice, I know we could never recreate the magic that once happened within these walls, but I hope we were able to bring a little bit of that feeling back with our matches tonight, because you fans in Philadelphia deserve it. You're such a big part of why the business is where it is right now, and we wanted at least to give our attempt to give you quality wrestling that only you fans in Philly deserve. I hope we lived up to that tonight. Thank you so much. Can't wait to come back and see you again. And then you can have the Taz tribute. Maybe you can incorporate some other ECW personalities there if you wanted, but build your 2300 show up for something to look forward to, instead of it being right after a pay-per-view where fans are just being like, God damn, this is a small building. And granted, they've been advertising the 2300 residency. We know that's been coming, but the show itself, I think, should have booked special. Only 900 fans, exclusive fans. Shout out to our friend Queen of the Ring right there in the front row, thirsting over Hobbs. I love that. So, only exclusive, invite fans, only the best of the best in Philly. We're going to provide you just with an old school vibe here that hopefully will bring back some of the memories for some of you fans who might have been here 30 years ago, that type of thing. And then if you build it into a show like that, give it a little bit of an extreme vibe, and, you build up a big main event match or something like that, I think that would have landed a lot better than this, because it was just a really, really small building. So some of the things we saw on Dynamite on Wednesday was FTR kicking off the show, trying to bully Paul Turner into reversing the Forbidden Door decision. Of course, he doesn't want to. His decision is final. And that's when Adam Copeland comes out, and then Christian comes in from behind, beats up Stokely, and Cope and Christian take out FTR. FTR retreats into the aisleway, and that's where they make the match for All Out, which is what we were expecting. Cope and Christian, or CNC, as they're called, they're going to be taking on FTR at All Out. We knew that was going to happen. We were just thinking it was going to be for the tag team championships, but of course, FTR didn't win them. But there is a chance they do win them before All Out. I would not be surprised if they beat Brodito for the championships and still face CNC for the titles at All Out. I think that could still very much happen. My favorite part is when Christian gets on the mic and he goes, Cash and Dax, you guys both have dads. And then Copeland grabs the mic. He goes, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And then the fans are like, oh, come on, let him say it. And then he's like, all right, fine, you sickos. And Christian goes, no, and that bitch is dead. Oh, my God. Hilarious stuff there. Jon Moxley on Wednesday, he defeated Daniel Garcia with a chokeout. It looks like Moxley might be trying to half recruit Daniel Garcia, maybe into the Death Riders. There's something going on there between those two. After the match, Yuta kept on running his mouth on the mic, and he was then interrupted by Hook, who came out and kicked his ass, but Hook has some new music. Apparently, his new theme is a 1996 song called So Tell the Girls I Am Back in Town from J.J. Johansson. I've never heard that song and never heard of J.J. Johansson, but that's Hook's new theme, and a lot of fans are asking what happened to his old theme. Here's what Fightful Select had to say about Hook's former theme. Last year, Action Bronson took shots at the AEW environment, which definitely didn't sit well with a number of people in the company. However, we're told by at least one person that things seemingly were smoothed over at some point, but the decision was actually made by then to move on to a different theme for Hook. It was noted back in January to us that Hook was coming out without his entrance for a specific reason. The rights to the Bronson theme had expired, and the company was working on what to do for his next theme. If you go back to January, you'll notice that AEW was being creative in bringing him out with other people and also having him attack people without his entrance music playing. And I really liked the Action Bronson theme, but sounds like he's got this new one now, and it sounds weird. Harley Cameron and Stat defeated Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne on Wednesday as well. Hangman Page cut a promo talking about his match with MJF and his victory. He wished Will Ospreay well and vowed to defend the title against him as soon as Will Ospreay is ready to come back. I forgot to put the Dynamite image up there. So they may have just booked next year's All Out, or I'm sorry, All In London. I don't know. It just depends on whether or not Will Ospreay is healthy enough by then. So the Callis family then shows up, all of them in the entranceway, and Callis alludes to Hangman Page's next challenger being a member of the Callis family. So it sounds like at All Out, Hangman might be defending against a member of the Callis family. Not sure who yet. Maybe Takeshita, maybe Okada. Don't know. Of course, MJF is still sitting on that contract, and apparently Tony Khan, during the Forbidden Door scrum, did address the similarities between the contract and the Money in the Bank. And I never knew that the contract was cash in at any time until they started doing that. And I didn't think it was always like that, but Tony Khan has said that they're going to try to give like a week's notice from now on, and he basically acknowledged the similarities of a match concept that's not really that great to begin with. They're kind of copying WWE in that regard, so I don't know if that's going to apply to MJF's situation or it's going to be for the next time. But at All Out, I suppose you could have MJF cash in if that is still allowed. We don't really know. But Hangman gets attacked by the Callis family. Jet Speed tries to come out and help, but the numbers game is too much. And that's when Kenny Omega shows up to even the odds, looking a lot like 2002 Triple H. And Kenny and Hangman wind up hitting their V-trigger buckshot lariat combo on Lance Archer as a little blast from the past. So I really enjoyed that on Wednesday. We had the Ops successfully defending their trios championships over Ricochet and the Gates of Agony. MVP showed up to help out for this one, hit Ricochet in the head with his cane, allowing Samoa Joe to lock in the Coquina Clutch for the win. And in the main event, Darby Allin defeated Claudio Castagnoli in a really fun Falls Count Anywhere match. Really nuts spot where Claudio picks up Darby and throws him from the ring onto the table. They did the same spot last week in NXT with Obafemi and Javon Evans. You guys in the chat can tell me which one was better because they both looked really gnarly and almost equally nuts. So Darby takes, of course, crazy bumps. He does win this match. Couple of coffin drops to Claudio, gets the job done, and he's able to escape the ring before Gabe Kidd and the rest of the Death Riders can get their hands on him. So it's going to be Moxley and Darby at All Out, or at least the challenge has been laid down. I don't know if Moxley's officially replied yet or not. I don't remember, but that is going to be the match we're getting at All Out. After the show on Wednesday, the entire AEW locker room, led by Tony Khan, came out to surprise Taz, the ECW legend who was at ringside for commentary. They all came out in their Taz t-shirts, and Tony Khan got on the mic. Hook was there, and I think Taz's wife as well, and informed Taz that he is going to be honored and immortalized in the rafters of the 2300 Arena, and that was supposed to happen tonight on the live Collision, which goes live in about an hour. That's supposed to happen tonight, but apparently it's been bumped to Dynamite. So I think they're going to bump that to Dynamite because they are still in the 2300 Arena next week as well. So I think Dynamite is where we're going to get the Taz tribute there. So that was very nice of Tony Khan and kind of cool to see, Taz get worked and get surprised by the talent like that. Very cool. So I don't know if they're going to hang his t-shirt up in the rafters or what they're going to do there, but he's going to be honored in some way this Wednesday on Dynamite in the 2300 Arena. That's really nice. All we have for the all-out card so far, I guess, is just Darby and Moxley, Cope and Christian against FTR, and Hangman will be defending, I think, against a member of the Callis family. That's the way it's looking right now. Also, last night, Ring of Honor held its Death Before Dishonor show, also in the 2300 Arena. Bandito defeated Hechicero to retain the Ring of Honor World Championship. And in the main event, Athena defeated Mina Shirakawa to retain her Ring of Honor Women's Championship. And this was a really good match. Even prior to the match, when Athena was making her entrance, she was joined by the Blue Meanie, and they did the Blue Meanie dance in the ECW Arena. You'll love to see that shit. So sounds like they had a pretty decent show for Ring of Honor last night. And let me just see if I can pull up any info on tonight's Collision. Like I said, that does go live in an hour. I thought it was taped on Wednesday, but it wasn't. It's live. So it looks like we've got Jay Lethal and Hologram going one-on-one. We've got Juice Robinson and Big Bill. And it's the only matches I see so far. I don't see another match advertised for Collision yet. So probably because it's live, they don't maybe know what they're doing yet. I don't know. But those are the only two matches there. If anything crazy does happen on Collision tonight, I'll be at work. Feel free to shoot me a tweet. Let me know what's going on. All right, let's move on to WWE real quick. This past week on Raw, they were in Birmingham, England. And this was an okay show. Again, we're just setting up Clash in Paris here, which is tomorrow morning. Roman Reigns opened up the show with the big promo. He brawls with Bronson Reed, and officials pull him apart and whatnot. And of course, we got Bronson and Roman tomorrow. That match will probably open Clash. But my favorite part of everything that we saw from Roman Reigns on Monday was him backstage giving that little pep talk to Jey Uso. That was some serious character development right there, guys. Did that register to any of you? Because Roman, I was expecting that way earlier, like last year, and the fact that Roman was talking to Jey, telling him to go out there and get it, bring the title home for the family. And he's offering advice, but he's offering it like from his perspective. And he goes, that's just my perspective. You still got to go do you. Kind of fist bumps him and walk away. And it wasn't much, but if you really read between the lines there, Roman Reigns is changing, and when he first kind of moved away from the bloodline, started, being a babyface, he was still kind of a dick. And now you can kind of see Roman changing, like his character actually changing. And that little exchange he had backstage with Jey Uso, I really liked, because it's Jey in the title match. It's Jey in the main event, and Roman most likely in the curtain jerker, and Roman still kind of being there, saying, go get it, man. You do this for the family. I really enjoyed that exchange between the two of them on Monday night. A lot of news coming out of the women's division. There will be no women's championship match on the show. I was assuming since Naomi has forfeited the title, it would be a triple threat between Io Sky and Rhea Ripley and Stephanie Vaquer. But Adam Pearce informed Stephanie on Raw that there will be no title match on Clash in Paris at all, and he needs another week to find her opponent. But what does he mean by that? Find her opponent to determine the new champion? Is it just going to be a one-on-one match, or you're going to have to run through a tournament? How are they going to rectify the title? So it sounds like they're stalling. They want to wait until after Clash in Paris to figure out whatever they're going to do. And if they are going to do a tournament of some kind, I think the finals should be Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley in Perth. The finals for the women's championship tournament or whatever. And I still like my idea of Stephanie Vaquer winning the Rumble or the Chamber and winning the championship at WrestleMania. But before that, you got to do Rhea and Io, and Rhea's got to get that win over Io Sky. But we will see. I think we'll find out some more news on that next week. But in replacement of that women's championship match that we are now not getting, they're going to be giving us Becky Lynch and Nikki Bella for the Intercontinental Championship instead. Now, Nikki and Becky set this up in a little in-ring segment on Monday night. And what was funny about this is that during this segment, Becky Lynch gets on the mic and mentions something about Ozzy. And she says, what did she say? She said, the only good thing to come out of Birmingham died a month ago. And luckily, Ozzy had the sense to move to LA and get the hell out of this town or whatever. So she's just being a normal heel. That's extremely typical. Shit on the crowd. She wasn't shitting on Ozzy. She was shitting on the city. But guess who got all mad about that? Daughter Kelly Osbourne, who tags like a Becky Lynch fan account to respond to this because she's an idiot, and says, "You are disrespectful dirtbag, Becky Lynch. Birmingham would not piss on you if you were on fire. I don't want to be pissed on. I want water to be thrown on me. Don't pee on me. Do not pee on me. Get water. No pee." So I'm fine with that, Kelly. I'm sure Becky is too. Birmingham forever. Shame on the WWE for allowing such things to be said about my father and his home. All right, she's grieving, whatever. But Kelly Osbourne, with all due respect, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't an insult to your dad. She's being a heel. She's being a wrestling heel. If you went to a movie, the villain, might be trying to rob somebody in Birmingham and he insults the town. Who fucking cares? Who cares? She wasn't insulting Ozzy. She was complimenting Ozzy, saying that she's the only good thing to come out of that city. So Kelly is upset about that, and it's just silly because she knows WWE. I get over yourself, I guess. What else do you say here? I remember back when I lived in Wilmington, North Carolina, they would film a lot of movies there, and I just met a ton of famous people. And one night downtown, word got around that Jack Osbourne was down there. Jack Osbourne's downtown. And there was one little restaurant and bar that anybody who's famous was always told to go to. It was called Deluxe. So I met a lot of famous people in Deluxe. You'd hear around, hey, so-and-so's in Deluxe. So after work, we'd all go over to Deluxe and have some drinks and, hobnob with the actors and whatnot. And one night they were like, yo, Jack Osbourne is at Deluxe. So we were right across the street. So we're like, cool. We finish our drinks. We walk over there. Homeboy is sitting there. He's got those those little ropes those velvet ropes that they unhook and let you into the club, and then put it back. The things you used to see at the bank back in the 80s. He's got one of those, a perimeter of those things around him. And he's sitting at the table by himself with this ring of security shit around him and one bodyguard standing there. And he's basically in this ring where every other celebrity, way more famous than him, has sat right at the bar, talked to people, had drinks. Jack couldn't be bothered to be touched or bothered by anyone. And he had one bodyguard, and he had those little velvet little things circle around him. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy? So anyway, the Osbourne kids are both nuts. And I don't really care what Kelly Osbourne said. I think she just needs to chill. Your dad is a legend. WWE loves your father. Becky Lynch loves your father. I love your father. All of us in the chat love your father. Your father is a goddamn legend, and he's probably rocking out right now in heaven with all the other legends up there. And it was no disrespect meant. Becky was being a heel. That's what heels do. There's nothing abnormal about what Becky said. She didn't cross any line. She did exactly what every fucking heel does. Kelly Osbourne, chill the fuck out. All right, so let's talk about what happened on SmackDown last night in Lyon, France. Again, much like Raw, a lot of the same shit, different day here. Luckily for us, we had a couple of fun things on SmackDown last night, including a big title change. But John Cena and Logan Paul were back at it again in the ring, having their promo ahead of their match tomorrow. And John Cena winds up singling out the same little kid who he, I guess, traumatized when he first turned heel. His first promo after turning heel, they were in Belgium, right? They were in Brussels, Belgium. And he talked about the kids and how he doesn't like the kids or whatever. And they focus in on this little kid in the front row who just looks heartbroken. And apparently the kid is there. So he's in France tonight. They spot him. John Cena spots him. And he goes out to the outside of the ring to give this emotional apology to this little shit, and the kid can't stop looking at his phone. John Cena has got his arm. John Cena's arm is around the kid, and the kid's like, wait, I don't know if he's trying to get his shit pulled up so he can record, or if he's trying to go live, or what he's trying to do, but you're missing a great moment here, bro. Take your phone, pass it to your dad or whoever the hell is with you and say, bro, record this shit. And then you let John Cena put his arms around you. You look him in the eye. You allow him to apologize. And if everything goes well, you can share a nice wet kiss at the end. But you at least have to listen to him and be a part of this. And the kid is, I know he's young and kids are stupid. I know that. But it's just the fact that he's just looking at his phone, I couldn't get past that. I'm like, bro, come on. John Cena is talking to you on national TV. He's pouring his heart out to you, apologizing for what he did. And you are not cooperating with the segment at all. And I thought it was really, really, really funny. And it's just sad, I mean, even at my restaurant, if I get anybody under the age of 20, you can pry their eyes off of their phone. Last night, we had a little handful, probably late teen, early 20s girls in there. It is nothing but a giggle fest. And, just they're on their phone and they're posing and they're taking a million fucking pictures and they're streaming. They're not talking to each other. They're talking to each other through the use of their devices, and they're all sitting together. It's just fucking weird. And so that little kid, dude, You disappointed me, man. You really disappointed me. I think that he's going to grow up really regretting that, when he gets older. Like fucking the legend John Cena with 8 dates left came and talked to me personally in the crowd. And I couldn't be pulled away from my phone for long enough to listen to him. But anyway, no physicality there. John Cena basically just tells Logan that he won't ruin wrestling because wrestling will destroy him, and walks off. So Cena and Logan tomorrow, and then it's going to be Cena and Brock at WrestlePalooza. Alexa Bliss last night defeated Chelsea Green one-on-one. This was supposed to be a tag team championship match, but there was some issue with Piper Niven. I don't know if it's an injury thing or a travel issue or whatever, but she wasn't cleared. So instead, they ran an angle where Chelsea and Alba Fire attacked Alexa and Charlotte during their entrance, which then switched the match to a one-on-one. So it kind of made the champions look dumb, did it not? Or not the champions, it would make the challengers look stupid. Granted, this is a cover for Piper's Niven situation, but you should have done it differently, because this looks like Chelsea and Alba screwed themselves out of a tag team championship match. So they'll probably just do it next week or whenever, when Piper is okay. Hopefully she is, but just a weird way to rewrite that situation. All of the people backstage, when they're like, okay, how do we deal with the Piper thing? They suggest that, and not one person, and not Charlotte or Alexa, speaks up and says, doesn't that make, or not Charlotte or Chelsea and Alba, nobody speaks up and says, doesn't that make us look a little stupid? Shouldn't we just make some other thing here or do something else? I don't understand why they did it that particular way, but Bliss got the win over Chelsea Green, and the crowd was into it. They were really into it. Kiana James, was this her debut? She got in the ring last night and lost in 5 seconds to Mi Chin. I also saw something recently where Kiana James, I think, did an interview where she was kind of talking smack about Cora Jade. And I know Cora Jade doesn't work there anymore, but maybe WWE is punishing her for running her mouth. I don't know. But Mi Chin beat Kiana pretty quick. And then after the match, Kiana and Julia beat the hell out of Mi Chin and slammed her face into the steel ring steps on the outside. Drew McIntyre had a promo, interrupted by Randy, brawl, same thing. Officials come in to pull him apart. And poor Hurricane Helms eats an RKO. So that sucks. I thought they were going to put Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton on the pay-per-view. Maybe a nice number one contenders match or something, but they didn't. Instead, we're getting a tag title match at the pay-per-view because the Street Profits defeated Miz and Mello in that number one contenders match, and they will now go on to face the Wyatt Six at Clash in Paris. Correct? That's what's happening there. So prior to this match, Bo Dallas shows up out of his Uncle Howdy gear and kind of issues a warning to both teams. And I really liked that because, my God, did he look a lot like Bray. He looks so much like Bray. He sounds like Bray. And I think WWE might be realizing that too. Hey, we got to get you on screen more like this because, it's bittersweet, It's kind of nice because it reminds you of Bray, and that is his own flesh and blood, but it also reminds you that Bray's not here anymore. But, man, that Bo Dallas, he looked and sounded a lot like his brother last night. And that was kind of cool to see. So I hope we see more of that version of Bo Dallas, more and more. Maybe they're slowly changing these things up. Maybe we're going to get a fun Firefly Funhouse with Bo Dallas. Or maybe he's going to turn into the Fiend. Maybe they're going to bring the Fiend back in the form of Bo Dallas. It's possible. It's possible. In the main event last night, Sami Zayn defeated Solo Sikoa to win the United States Championship, winning the U.S. Championship in France. Okay, that's fine. It was a great moment. Holy shit, the pop from the crowd. And Sami winning the U.S. title for the first time in his career. And you got to wonder, is that going to be an appetizer to WrestleMania? A lot of people have Sami winning the Rumble in Saudi, winning the title at WrestleMania. Hopefully his babyface momentum can carry that far because people are starting to turn on him a lot like they're turning on Cody. But it was a great moment for Sami last night, and I loved that, and that the Paris crowd or the Lyon crowd was able to get a title change. That's awesome. Congratulations to Sami Zayn. That was really fun. I enjoyed the Cena and Logan stuff. I enjoyed the Sami stuff, and I enjoyed seeing Bo Dallas out of his Uncle Howdy gear. But other than that, not much to talk about on SmackDown or Raw from this past Monday, because Clash of Champions is tomorrow. And I've got my predictions here for the 6 matches. I feel like these are mostly somewhat easy to predict, but I do have a couple that I'm not quite sure about that I'm just going to kind of wing. But I'm pretty good usually at the WWE predictions, a little bit better than the AEW ones. Although at Forbidden Door, I think I only got 1 match incorrect. So let's start at the bottom. What's going to be the bottom match here? Probably not the first match, but the one that I'm, I guess, least interested in. I guess it's going to be Sheamus and Rusev in a good old-fashioned Donnybrook. I think this would be a great spot for Lana to return. I know Rusev and her are back together. I know there's been talk about seeing her again in WWE, but we don't know if they're going to bring her in. But if they were going to bring her in, a match like this is where I would bring her in. International crowd, they're going to pop huge for her. She can come in and help out by hitting Sheamus with a shillelagh or throwing powder in his eyes or something like that and help Rusev get the win, and Rusev and Lana reunite right there in Clash in Paris after beating Sheamus. I don't know if I'm right about that, but I am going to pick Rusev to beat Sheamus in the Donnybrook. And I really think Lana showing up could be a lot of fun, so I'm rooting for that. We just said that the tag team titles are now on the line. The Wyatt Six, it's going to be Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis. They're defending against the Street Profits. This one's kind of tough, but not really. I'm going to go with the Wyatt Six here, with Bo Dallas kind of speaking to both teams. Whatever they're doing there, I'd rather see that momentum continue. So I'm going to pick the Wyatt Six to retain in what should be a really good match over the Street Profits. Becky Lynch defending her Intercontinental Championship against Nicole Bella. Not too hard to pick this one, at least for me. I do not want to see Nikki Bella winning the Intercontinental Championship. She better not. So I'm going to predict that Becky Lynch will retain the title here, although I'm a little nervous that maybe Becky could win the title. I mean, they did bring that Nikki could win the title. They did bring Nikki back. So to bring her back just to lose a bunch of matches, I don't know. I'm really rooting for Becky here. I just don't want Nikki Bella to win the Intercontinental Championship. I don't think there's any reason for her to. Becky Lynch is doing great with that title. I'd have her run with it a little longer. And I'm not ready to see Nikki take it away from her, at least not yet. So I'm going to go Becky Lynch to retain the Intercontinental title over Nikki Bella in a match that I believe is probably going to open the show, because Roman Reigns either opens or closes pay-per-views. And he's been doing that for quite a few years. So Roman and Bronson Reed may open up the show here. And I think it would be interesting if they didn't, to be honest. But I think they will. And again, not a difficult one to predict. Sorry, Roman Reigns is not going to lose this match. He's not. You know, I saw a lot of people thinking that, Reed should beat him here. And I understand, like, kind of where you're coming from, like that mentality. But it's not going to happen. Roman Reigns is going to defeat Bronson Reed. I would save Roman's loss for when he faces Breakker. But Bronson Reed, he's going to beat Bronson Reed. And he's going to get all his shoes back, I think. So Roman Reigns over Bronson Reed. John Cena versus Logan Paul. Again, not too difficult to predict here. I got to go with Cena only because he's going to be facing Brock Lesnar on September 20th. So this gives him a victory and some momentum going into that. The only way I could see it going differently is if Brock Lesnar shows up in Paris and costs John Cena the match. That could happen. So Brock Lesnar could show up and cost John Cena the match, giving Logan Paul the win. But unless that happens, if that doesn't happen, then I got to go with John Cena to defeat Logan Paul in a match that I hope will be good, and I think will be. The build and the promo work between the two guys has been pretty solid leading up to this, so hopefully the match will deliver. And since Cena has got such a big bout coming up with Brock Lesnar next month, I feel like he absolutely has to beat Logan Paul here, unless Brock shows up and screws him over. And that leaves us with the World Heavyweight Championship fatal four-way, or is it or just a four-way, fatal four-way, whatever the fuck. Seth Rollins defending his World Heavyweight Championship against CM Punk, Jey Uso, and Los Angeles Knight. All sorts of dissension. We saw that on Monday night. After, did I even mention the main event on Monday? I don't think I did. I forgot to bring up a couple things about Monday Night's Raw. One of those was that Braun Breaker did defeat LA Knight in the main event, and Jey Uso and CM Punk and LA Knight, none of them are getting along, and the show ended with Jey Uso super kicking both LA Knight and CM Punk. So based on that finish on Raw, I think Seth Rollins is going to have to capitalize on this. He just cashed in the championship, or he just cashed in to win the championship at SummerSlam. So losing right here, right away in a four-way the very next show does not seem likely. So I think it's going to be a lot of the dissension amongst the other three that's going to allow Seth Rollins to capitalize and retain the title here. Plus, in a four-way, there's going to be no DQs and stuff, so Rollins is going to have the backup of Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. At least Breaker, maybe not Reed if he gets taken out by Roman. And we might even see Roman show up here later on in this thing too, in what should be the main event. Now, Cena and Logan Paul could be the main event. It's very possible, but I'm hoping the championship match is the main event, and it's Rollins against these three, and I've got Rollins picking up the win. So that means, if you look at my predictions, just to recap, I've got the Wyatt Six over the Street Profits, Becky Lynch over Nikki Bella, Rusev over Sheamus, Roman Reigns over Bronson Reed, John Cena over Logan Paul, and Seth Rollins to retain in the four-way. I have no championship titles changing hands on this show. So we're going to have to rely on good wrestling if that's going to be the case. So if I'm right, that means in order for this pay-per-view to be good, all these matches have to be killer. And I have a feeling they actually might be. So, yeah, I've got no title changes for tomorrow. If I was going to be wrong about that, if I was going to see one title change in here, it's got to either be Nikki or the Street Profits. But I'm not feeling either one of those. But we could be wrong. So we'll see if we continue our good prediction streak here. We did pretty good for Forbidden Door, only missing one match. And I have a feeling this will be the same. I feel like we'll miss one here. Probably just one. And like I said, don't forget, tomorrow, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, we will be here to review Clash in Paris. I'll give myself some time after the show to catch up on anything I might have missed and have some lunch and whatnot, and then we will come up here tomorrow and review it. So right on. All right, that pretty much makes it to the end of our notes. Now I can go over and answer some super chats for a few minutes before we get out of here. And just making sure. Oh, yeah, one more note about Raw, since I kind of stopped talking about that earlier. It should be noted as well that Raw will also be in Paris this coming Monday. So we have another one of those weird Raws where it's going to come on in a weird time. And then the next several Raws, or there's several Raws in September. September 15th, September 22nd, and September 29th. And I know these cities are, I think, Massachusetts, Raleigh, and I forget where the other one was. But anyway, the September 15th, 22nd, and 29th Raw are all going to air an hour early on Netflix. They're going to go live at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Not exactly sure why. Maybe because of NFL. Now that WWE is on Netflix, they might have a little bit more freedom to move their times around if they want to try to avoid Monday Night Football games. And maybe for the first 3 weeks of the season, that's what they're trying to do there, just to try to curb or help out the ratings or whatnot. Don't really know. Or if it's something that might be experimental and they want to see how they do, and maybe they'll move that to a permanent shift during football season and then revert back to a normal time in the beginning of the year. Don't really know. Also, Raw this week, by the way, 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, it airs here. So I'll probably be out and about running errands and shit when that show is airing. So I'll come home, I'll watch the show, and if it's decent, we'll come up here and we'll bust out a quick review on Monday. All right, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure I got through all of that since I was looking like I was starting to run short on time. I wanted to make sure I got everything in there, and we talked about all the pertinent stuff this week. Let me see here. I'm not going to be able to see them there. I'm going to have to go to my master list. Just bear with me 1 second. There we go. All right. Let's see what we got here. Just got a few that I missed. Colin, I got that one earlier from you. William Cullen, I got that one from you as well. And the new one, thank you so much for that $5. Vontae, always good to see you in here, man. The Raja situation is similar to Will Smith laughing at Chris Rock's joke before looking at Jada's reaction and decided to slap Chris in the face. Still very, very different, Vontae, but I get what you're talking about. Like, he seemed fine and then got himself riled up. And that situation made me so mad, too. I've hated Will Smith ever since then. Like, I've never liked his little kid, little Jaden, little prick. But Will Smith, like, famous people are just in a world of delusion. And that made me so mad, like, that Chris Rock had to get slapped by Will Smith over that. It's kind of similar, but not really. But in terms of being able to, like, manage your emotions, you know, and watching somebody change their mind, be okay with somebody, and then get themselves riled up, and then they go act on that. It's like, what the fuck? Such a messed up situation, man. And Ryan Adams, thank you for the 5. Tag you on Twitter, Greg. Tag you on Twitter and a pic of the set for tomorrow. Okay, let's take a look at that. Right quick. See how Clash in Paris is going to look. Oh, that's kind of cool. They've got like basically like a little Eiffel Tower. Here, I can probably put this up on the screen for you here. Let me show you guys what this is looking like for tomorrow. Yeah, so this is the Clash in Paris. Looks like a little Eiffel Tower there in the entranceway. That kind of looks cool. Big, long Tron. It looks good, I got to say. It actually looks good. It looks like it's a special set for this show. I missed the unique sets for PLEs or pay-per-views. So right on. Thank you for sending me that picture. That does look pretty good, and that crowd is going to be jacked as a motherfucker tomorrow. You know that for sure. Wow. Ian Gouda, 2008 to 2025, 17 years. Well, yeah, 17 years now, I suppose, but Hager was talking about it as in he was talking about that during his contract negotiations or whatnot. So, yeah, I guess if you count everything, he's been on TV for 17 years, but he hasn't even been on TV that much. When was the last time we saw him in AEW? When was the last time he wrestled a match in AEW? I actually don't know, but he's had a lot of pockets there. So, yeah, if he debuted in 2008 and you add all that time up between now and then, but he's saying he's been on TV every week for 17 years. He is not. He is not. But, yeah, I guess technically he's been in the business 17 years, but not being on TV that whole entire time. But, yeah, maybe that stat is a little closer to the truth than I thought, but it sounded whack to me. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, 17 years? But I sometimes forget that it's almost 2025. And, yes, that Sports Kedia podcast, that shit was with Dutch Mantel and whatnot. Dutch is another guy I just can't listen to at all. Transferring heat, I disagree. Shoot interviews are more likely to be in good faith than podcasts are. And I would know. I'm a shoot interview junkie, and I saw a lot of shoot interviews back in the day. And they're, you know, obviously stories are always going to be embellished, but that's the same. The shoot interviews are just like podcasts, you know. Yeah, they're going to have some stories embellished, but the idea that shoot interviews are never in good faith, transferring heat, that is demonstrably false. It could not be more false than that. That's wrong. You are not correct about that. Sorry. But yeah, you do find some shoot interviews that are, you know, people airing their grievances. I got a bunch. I remember Billy and Road Dogg. I got one of the two of them sitting there trashing Triple H for fucking an hour and a half, and they went back to go work for him. Road Dogg is like his right-hand man. So, you know, it's... you know, people just say shit and whatnot. But shoot interviews, there's a couple Bret Hart ones where he goes very, very much in detail about a lot of stuff, and they're great watches. Yeah, and you're right, Zach. Tony will regret losing Cody. He probably does. He probably does have some regrets. Yo, K-Dog's Kennel, good to see you, man. Cheers to another month of support. Working this evening shift, but want to give you and Elizabeth and Tito my best. Thank you so much for that, Kevin. Hope your shift goes well tonight. I have got to start getting myself into mental preparation to get absolutely annihilated. Tonight is pretty much the last crazy night of the summer for us, and then it's really going to be chill, but we're expecting a big one tonight. A real big one. I had Trevor Hoffman in the house the other night. Showed up. For some reason, Hell's Bells was playing by AC/DC. I don't know why, but I could hear it, and he walked in, got a table. He comes in all the time. CTE. I'm not going CTE Hager. No way. It's perfectly. You don't have to blame CTE for someone just being butthurt and bitter. There's plenty of people like Hager who've gone on and just aired their grievances. That's what happens, So I didn't hear any CTE in his voice. I just hear a lot of just bitterness and whatever. But I don't really care about Hager, so I'm kind of indifferent to it altogether. All right. Well, I think that is it. I want to sincerely thank you guys for being with us today for another podcast. It was a lot of fun. Excited to do this next week. Next week, we're going to come up a little later. We're going to go head-to-head with Collision probably, and I'm going to be putting up posts, so keep a lookout on YouTube this week. What I'll do is I'm going to put up a couple of posts in the community tab. Now, I'm going to give the channel members first crack. Give me ideas of what to talk about. If there's any sort of little news story or tidbit you want to hear me speak on, I'm going to allow you guys the opportunity to suggest those there. Then during the podcast, I will read through those. Hey, Barry from Hawaii or Rodrigo or Ian says to mention this, and I'll talk about it or whatever. And we'll try to make it a little bit interactive. Also, of course, super chats in the chat I'll answer and be talking to as well. I'll cover all the big stories, the major stuff we're going to cover like always. But if there's any other things that you might have read or saw or heard about and you want me to weigh in on it, we're going to start doing that on Saturday nights, and I will give the channel members first crack at that. A couple days later, I'll put up a post for the public, and they can answer some more or ask some more questions there. Not necessarily, you can ask, we can do Q&As and stuff too. You can ask like general questions, but mostly wrestling stuff. If there's a story out there, you want to hear me talk about it, mention it in these tabs, and we'll see how these go. And we'll try to make these a little bit more fun, a little bit more lengthy, and give us more time to talk about more stuff every Saturday. So that's the plan going forward, and I'm looking forward to that. So I'm off to work now. Then I'm going to come home, get some sleep. I'll be up tomorrow to watch Clash in Paris, and then we'll be here to review it. And then after that, we will be here to watch Mind Games tomorrow night. So big doubleheader planned again for tomorrow. And then a week from tomorrow, which will be September 7th, there will be no watch-along because I have plans with my family that night. So there will be no watch-along 1 week from tomorrow. But 2 weeks from tomorrow, we'll be back to kick those back off again. All right, I guess that's it for me. If you guys don't mind, if you could hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door, I would appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Saturday afternoon, and I'll be catching you tomorrow for our Clash in Paris review and our In Your House watch-along. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, and see you tomorrow. Peace.